Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message was forwarded to me by one of our admins, and the message reads like this. How are you, my brother? I want to confess that I once dated an old ritualistic man. This man, I had met him in Botswana. Brother Nashi, let me say, being poor will make you vulnerable and people will then take advantage of you. I was 21 years of age and life had been so hard in Zim. It is at that time when there was nothing in the shops except for cleaning detergents and toilet paper. There was nothing to eat in those days and life was very hard, especially for the poorest of the poorest. And at that time, there was actually a program where the United Nations was sending a lot of food stuff. We used to eat this thing that was called barley, but life still was really difficult. The economy was at its worst, and I remember that the time we had a lot of zeros on our money, and everyone was just a millionaire. And you were a millionaire, but in your house there was not even food. I had just enrolled in varsity and my mom could not even afford to take me any further because she could not even afford to pay the money, let alone we couldn't even afford to buy meal or rice. Most of the times there was no food in the house. That year I can say that I was just a vegetarian because for the whole year, I am not exaggerating, we were just eating vegetables throughout the year. It is when a friend of mine encouraged me to go with her to Botswana so that we could look for peace works. When I look at it now, I feel like crying because kids of my age at that time really had normal lives, but because my mom was poor, I had to run around to get my own school fees and food for the rest of the family. My brother, even the money that I used, I had to borrow it, or let me say that I had to sleep with another older man who had always proposed love to me, but I kept on turning him down. But when I saw that this was the only opportunity for me to get out of town so that I can go to Botswana, I then went and I spoke with that man. And when I spoke with him, he then told me that if I was going to spend about 2 nights with him, then he was going to give me something like 100 pula. My brother, it was so painful for me because I thought that on my honeymoon, it would be the first time that I would ever sleep with a man. And the man that I was going to sleep with was a man who would have paid for my bride price and the man that I would have wedded with. But my brother, because of poverty, I then went and I slept with that man for 2 days. He slept with me in whatever way he saw fit. Then on the second day, that is when he took out some money and he counted the money, and it was equivalent to 100 pula. After I had been given the money, I then went to my friend and I told her that if indeed she was still going to travel to Botswana, then she should not leave me behind because I had the money. I spoke with my mom and I told her that I wanted to go to Botswana so that I can look for some peace jobs. My mom was really scared. She didn't want me to leave and she didn't want me to drop out of school because she kept on saying that God was going to make a plan. But I knew at that moment that there was no God who was going to come down and make a plan for us because life had taken another wrong turn. So I lied to my mom that there was this other family. It was a friend's family. I had gone to speak with them and they had donated that money to me on one condition, that when I had arrived in Botswana, I was supposed to send them back their money. My mom was really happy, so happy that she praised the Lord. But as she was praising the Lord, I wanted to cry because of the way that I had gotten hold of that money. My brother, my story is filled with moments that makes me laugh and cry at the same time. We got into a bus and we left for Botswana, arriving in Francistown, and here we caught a taxi to the nearest village where my friend was taking me to. She told me that to the village where we were going, a brother was already working there. We arrived in the village. Then I would walk around looking for peace works. The year it was in 2007 to 2008. This was deep in the village, and there they speak Setswana. And this was my first time being out of my own country. My friend's brother told us that we had to quickly learn the language because there were some guys who were from Zim who were taking advantage of people whom they could see that they were still fresh in the country, because they will greet you, and if they would see that you are confused, then they will lie to you that they are the police. Then they will pretend as if they are arresting you, and then they will steal everything that you will be having at that time. So quickly, my brother, I had to do a crash course. I then learned a few words so that I can just go by. We were told by my friend's brother that whenever we would be going door to door looking for peace jobs, as we would be knocking, we would say Dumelang Kibatatiro. After many days, when me and my friend would go out so that we can look for any kind of a peace job, one night when we had returned back to that two-puller accommodation, that is when I heard that we were supposed to part ways because a brother had found another job opportunity for her. So I was then left alone. My brother, after me and my friend had gone our separate ways, I walked, I think, for more than 15 days. Each and every morning, I'll get out of the house on an empty stomach, and I would only eat at night when we would go back to that two-puller accommodation. I lost so much weight, and I think that the reason why my friend's brother was frustrating me, it was because he wanted me to become his wife, but I didn't want that, my brother. I had came here to work, so I was not going to allow him to take advantage of me. It was far much better for me to starve. I then got a few piece jobs. One was to clean and wash the dishes. That one I was given about 10 puller. Then I would work for this other guy. Then that guy would give me sometimes 25 puller. And yes, there were other men that used to propose love to me, but I would turn down those men that were proposing love to me because all that I kept on thinking about, it was my mom whom I had left back home. Now, before I met my boyfriend, I was walking in the village. It was at around 7 a.m. As I walked past a home that was by the corner, 3 dogs started barking at me. So as I was walking in the direction of that house where those 3 dogs were barking, I then saw that there was this other car that was driving towards me. It was really a nice sports car. So I told myself that if I can manage to cross that house just at the time when that car will be crossing that house, maybe those dogs would not attack me. I started walking very fast, but my brother, those dogs then started attacking me. Then I fell to the ground. The man who was driving that nice sports car saw that I was being attacked by those dogs. He then rushed to the place where I had fallen down. He asked who I was, and I told him my name. He then told me that he worked for the local government and he had a government house and a very decent place. How I ended up with him, my brother, I don't even know. Maybe it was because of desperation. When I got into his car, I then realized that this man, he was not even speaking in the local language. He was using another very strange language, but the kind of a language that he was using, maybe it could be Arabic or so, but I don't think that the language he was using when I was in his car, it is spoken here in Southern Africa. My brother, this man, he was in his late 40s, nearly 50. When we arrived at his house, I saw no sign of a child or a wife. He was just a single man. Then I started staying with him, but we were staying in separate bedrooms. Then one night, I don't know what came over me. I was more like a zombie because I just woke up and I found myself knocking on his door. Then he opened for me, my brother. After he had opened for me his bedroom, after he had opened the door to his bedroom, he locked it behind him. Then we got into bed. But what surprised me, my brother, is that when I was in his bed, he then faced the other way around. I was really embarrassed, for how many weeks that this man slept with me without ever touching me. He slept with me for about 3 weeks. Then on the 3rd week, that is when he came back home. And when he came back home, I was busy preparing supper for him. That is when he told me that he wanted to marry me. Before I could even respond, he then took my hand and he told me that me and him, we were supposed to have a discussion, my brother. But what he told me next, my brother, I do not even know why I ended up believing all the things that he was promising me, because he told me the truth about the source of his money. And the first thing that he told me, he said that if I was going to marry him, then I had to know that his mother was someone who practiced witchcraft. My brother, I was stupid and innocent, and I said, I love you. And I said that I love you and you are not the one to be blamed because your mom is not a witch like you. And at that time, when I was telling him that I love you, it was because he had promised me that he was going to get my papers sorted out if I was going to get married to him. So I was really excited that I didn't even wait for him to tell me the true source of his wealth. Yo, dear listeners, right there was a message that I had for you. Strange things do happen in this world.